welcome everybody to today's episode of Cafecito Power Break. This is an exciting day because this is one of my favorite conversations, actually. So I'm excited to dive into this. For those of you that are just joining us, make sure that you are connected with us and let us know in the comments where you're joining us from. And then also our events that are coming up, guys. We have a lot of events for United Latinas coming up. So make sure you check those out at unitedlatinas.com/events. Unless you're already following our channels, you'll see them come up often. Pero we are having cafecito. We are having a break. We are talking some powerful stuff, some much needed stuff. So we have a short amount of time to talk about something we could probably talk about forever. But welcome, Brenda. We have the fabulous Brenda Terry, master coach, trainer, NLP, tapping, all this beautiful. Tell us a little bit about you, your background, and all that good stuff.
So as you're saying all the things, I'm getting all the chills. And so first, let me just say first, thank you for this. This is my first live in a year. I took a year off from all the socials pretty much basically so that I can work on my business and get it to where to get it to that improved vision. And so this is a really special moment for me. So thank you so much for having me here, Sandra. And for the people who are listening, whether you listen now or later, I'm excited to be in your ear for these few minutes. So my name is Brenda Terry. I'm an NLP master coach trainer. And so I love teaching NLP. So that's neuro-linguistic programming. And we can go into a little bit more about that in a moment. But for the most part, I'm a mindset and business coach and mentor. And so I love working with women who are either starting their businesses or looking to grow their businesses. And we always start by addressing the mindset blocks that are preventing them or that keep them playing small so they can get to that space that they want to be in, so they can live the vision of that business that they hold in their heart, so that they can feel really good as they're doing it. And so that's essentially what I do. I have a one-on-one private coaching practice. I also run a 12-month group program, and coming soon, very, very soon, brand new YouTube channel. And so I love all of that. I love doing all of that. And I really am here to be just supporter of the women that are out there who are making it happen. This is our time. I believe it so much. And so, however I can help, I'm here to help.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I know. I don't remember when we got connected on Facebook somehow. And then
You were in my Facebook group.
Yes. And then somebody sent me a video and I'm like, oh, I love listening to them. I just love how you just shared these things that just were so relevant and so relatable and just so like, I love how she shares this knowledge. It's beautiful. And I'm like, yay. So when I saw you became a member, I'm like, yay.
Yes.
This is awesome.
This is, by the way, I have to give her a shout out. It's Maxine Serrano who's right. She connected us again. Yep. Maxine. So I just recently moved to Charlotte with maybe 6 months ago. And man, she just took me under her wing. I'm sure she does so many people. And she just showed me around, introduced me. And so this, I don't think would have happened without her getting us together again. So thank you for that.
Yeah. The power of connections, right? It's, that's even part of this equation, right? How we are out there sharing, going out there, connecting, building, because a lot of limiting beliefs, and belief systems really get in our way. So let's start with that. Like would you define beliefs?
So see, I love that question. That's such a great question, because how do you define a belief? A belief really is. So the brain does it in a couple of different ways, but for the most part for us, it's going to be something that you repeated. It's going to be a thought that's been repeated, but not necessarily so. So there's something called pattern recognition by the brain, of the brain. And so what the brain does is that if something bypasses, there's a little wedge between, it's not like a physical wedge, but it is this neurological wedge between the conscious mind, which is your awareness, and the unconscious mind, which is where beliefs, emotions, your behaviors, your patterns of thought, all of your emotions, every single memory, that's where that's stored. And so if something happens in your experience that either makes sense according to the existing belief system, that it makes it really easy for the unconscious mind to then adopt it as a belief. The brain just recognizes it and integrates it. If something happens in your experience that shocks the system, that scares you, that shakes you, it could be really amazing or it could be really, really scary. It also then bypasses that critical faculty, which is that little wedge, and it gets integrated into the unconscious mind, and it just becomes part of your belief system. It adds into what's already there. But pattern recognition is really interesting because you don't have to believe something for very long. You don't have to see it a lot of different times. What happens is that the brain will recognize something and say, oh yeah, that makes sense. Let's just make that part of our beliefs. And then the brain, with all its wonderful mechanisms, it just simply goes out and looks for evidence of that thing that you just integrated. And then that makes that belief even more true. And the problem for so many of us is that we think that our truths are actually true, when in reality, your truths are really just things that you're believing. And I always tell my clients every single time that we talk, listen, let's look at your truths. Which truths are serving you? And which of the truths that you have are limiting you? And those we're going to call limiting beliefs, and we can change them.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So all of that, right, is so important. And sometimes there's like beliefs that you're like, why do I think this way? You can't really pinpoint it to any one thing or experience, but you know, so you wonder like the roots of all of that as well. So how do we begin to, number one, become self-aware that that we're thinking wrong, right? Like catching ourselves versus and questioning ourselves, like, is this real? Or have I been told this? Has this been programmed into me? How do we, I mean, that's probably a long question, right? Like,
Really short answer though.
okay, go ahead.
And I'll tell you know, so I'm really practical when it comes to this, because I love working with the mind. I love working with the power of the mind. I love helping my clients really begin to understand their own power so that they can create the change they want.
Yep.
And here's the thing though. So when we look at the root cause of beliefs, my answer is always with a lot of love and respect, right? Like I always say, I respect the person. I don't necessarily respect their beliefs. It's this. Does it matter? I don't think it matters, because you're not going to know, because you are complex. And so as we peel back layers, we uncover deeper stuff. And by the way, as you're peeling back layers, especially if you're doing personal development work, as you're peeling back those layers, you're going to access things that you're going to be ready to access now because of the work that you did previous to accessing them. Yes. So every step allows you to go to a layer deeper. Now, the reason that I say it, for me, it doesn't matter where they come from. It's because at the end of the day, let's say that you decide that they're your mothers, or that they're your grandparents, or that they are 5 generations ago, or whenever that was. They adopted them from somewhere else. You can take that thinking and you can go to the beginning of time and still not figure it out. Sure. But the other part that's really interesting is that consciously we try to fix it, but the conscious mind is just really familiar with the problem. The unconscious mind has a solution to the problem. And so the way that the unconscious mind learns and thinks and processes information is very different. So to the unconscious mind, it can create a metaphor. It can create a story. This is the reason that, like, for me, one of the things that I'm most passionate about is helping people not only release negative emotions at an unconscious level, but also teaching them how to do it for themselves. Because in 15 to 18 minutes, you can let go of all of the anger in your life up until today. You can let go of all of the sadness up until today. And it doesn't mean that you don't create anger again, because you will, because you're not a robot. But you know what? We can learn to let it go within a few minutes. And the only thing that we're doing is working with how the unconscious mind stores information. And when we work with how it stores information, you can actually create change. If you're trying to make your change logical, you're just simply making that problem bigger. Yes?
Yes, yes, yes. That is awesome. Hello from Tucson. For sure. Right. So I love that you said that. We do tend to kind of try to figure it out logically in our head, and then we're just thinking about it, and we're thinking, and then that's attracting more emotions and all the negative thought baggage.
You're feeding the pattern that the brain originally created, and so you're giving the brain this like nod that says, "All right, I guess you really want this."
Yeah.
So when you say, "No, I don't want to think like that," then the unconscious mind doesn't take the no. It's like, "Oh, you want more of that? Let me give you plenty of opportunities for you to experience it."
Yep, yep. You know what? There's so many things. Like I used to study Wayne Dyer, and then through all that process, and then
Yep.
um, I learned about brain retraining about 10 years ago with uh, Azaraf, John
Oh,
Azaraf.
sure, sure. Yes.
Yep. And then I saw this things. I got really into quantum, right? How do we really like when what we are and when when you're really trying to figure out of okay, how does thought create? How do our thoughts that when we are sad or when we are in a negative
Sure.
state,
Yeah.
we perpetuate that, right? We perpetuate that in our lives. How do we, you know, really learn to master that and really capture those thoughts? I mean, I have some tools that I've been using, but I would love to hear from you. Like, what advice would you give to somebody that's going about their day and it's able to call themselves out, catch those thoughts, and then something that they can do in those moments to just shift their thinking to redirect that path, right?
And redirect is
Mhm.
a really good word, because so if you think about so neuro linguistic programming is neural, so we're working with the nervous system. Linguistic meaning the language that we use, and then how that then leads to our patterns or programming or conditioning. And so when you change the first two, the outcomes must change. So neuro is going to be what your body is doing that creates the thought, let's say, or creates the state meaning just how do you feel right now. And linguistic, so the language part is going to be how you label it, what you call it, what you think to yourself about it. And then that is going to lead to results and outcomes that have a direct connection, that align. And so it really is, and I say this um, only because I've lived it, because I've done it with my clients, that you have the power to begin to create that change. One of the things that I love to do and I love working is that most of the people that come into my space have some sort of trauma. I think all of us have some sort of trauma, and sometimes they have really deep trauma that feels like it's way bigger than them. And the reality is, regardless of the type of trauma that has come into my space that I work with, every single human that I've worked with, right? And I can't imagine that I'm that unique, that my people are that unique. Every single person has been way bigger than whatever brought them in. And so it becomes for me, it's like turning it into a game. Awareness is the most important thing. You know that you're thinking things that are not serving you because of the way that you feel. And sometimes you can catch the language because the thought will be there first. The thought will be there always first, but your awareness of the thought will be more present to you before the feeling kicks in. But the moment that you have the awareness of the thought, that means that that thought already has momentum. And so a pattern interrupt. So I'll give you my favorite ones. And they're super easy, by the way. A pattern interrupt is going to be, if you think about going from A to B, and let's say A to B is your street where you live, A is your house, and B is a corner. So a pattern is going to run from A to B, from A to B, from A to B, from A to B. This is happening. This is a synapses in the brain, just running electricity, just running through the circuits, right? So a pattern interrupt is going to be as if you're leaving your house, you get out of the driveway, and boom, roadblock. You cannot get to the end of the block anymore. That's a pattern interrupt. So in NLP, we look at pattern interrupts as something that when you repeat it enough, that interrupt becomes part of the pattern, meaning that your A to B doesn't exist anymore. Now it's like A to a little block, A to that block, A to that block. The faster you catch it, the easier it's going to be. So for me, in my world, all of my clients know reject, delete, like unconscious mind, this is not it. And reject, delete that. And this is what I want instead. And the language part is really important because a lot of times we think that we're focusing on what we want, but we're not. We're using language that speaks to the thing that we're trying to avoid, which is absolutely different. Hi, Maxine. Sorry. It's absolutely different. right? We speak to the things that we don't want a lot of the times. We operate from fear so much of the time. Like, I don't want to do this. I want to avoid that. I want to stop this problem. What do I do to stop the problem? Well, the way that you stop the problem is, number one, we interrupt the thought, and you give instructions to the unconscious mind, because you're doing it every single day by saying, hey, unconscious mind, this is what I want instead. Instead of things being so hard, I want things to be easy. So show me an easier, softer way to get this done. In the more that you do that, and for me, reject, delete. I love Mulan, the movie. So for me, for a long time, it was like dishonor on you, dishonor on your cow, and let's move on. And anything that makes you laugh. I mean, I literally started tap dancing once, like Johnny Carson, just to remind myself, all right, this is really silly. This is not true. It's just me doing
Yeah.
it.
Oh my God, I love that. I love that. That's exactly what we need to do, right? And it's funny that you brought up like trauma, because that was something that, even though I did studies prior to, I was in personal development for a long time, I hit a really hard time in my life when my mother was undergoing Alzheimer's and just kind of dealing with all of that. And I just kept perpetuating negative thoughts. I was just so sad. I was just so sad. And I kept myself there, and I just couldn't understand why I couldn't get out for a long time. It was scary, but it's just, it became that. It became me becoming self-aware of those thoughts and understanding that I was perpetuating this emotion. I was perpetuating these feelings, and I wasn't going to get out of it with someone rescuing me. I was going to get out of it when I realized, and I came to my own rescue and understood that I was responsible for the thoughts that I was thinking.
And for sure. And also, compassion is really important,
Mhm.
because we tend to be really hard on ourselves, and we fall into those perfectionist tendencies that say, well, if I'm a leader, I'm not supposed to be feeling pain, or I feel weak if I feel this, and in reality, you're here to feel every single emotion. By the way,
Yeah.
an amazing pattern interrupt is EFT. And so if you learn tapping, I have a little thing, it's not out there. Remember, I told you I'm working on all my funnels. They're just
Yeah.
about done next week. I'm so excited. And so so EFT, you can find EFT videos everywhere, right? You can do EFT and you can just tap it out, and it's going to move energy. But if any NLP, look at NLPers out there, like they call it, it's a kinesthetic pattern interrupt. It is that. So it's a pattern interrupt that you stop the pattern because you're doing things to your face. Now, if you're looking at it more from traditional Chinese medicine, it's moving energy through the meridian system, which is more, I was trained in EFT before I became trained in NLP. And so there's definitely that. And EFT to me is one of the most powerful things that you can use to be able to just move energy, to be able to get out of where you're at. But compassion is really important. And I got to say that there's all kinds of ways to heal negative emotions and release them from the nervous system. I mean, the way that I do it, I feel like I never found anything else than that works as well as the way that I've learned to do it for myself and with my clients. But if you haven't released negative emotions, if people say, well, I've done it. Well, unless you're actively aware that you've released them, they're probably still in the body. And so and it is about the mind body connection. So it's brain informing the body on what to do, what to feel, where you feel your aches. Do you sleep well? Does your stomach hurt? All of these things. And so what we want to do is, you can start wherever you're at. EFT is a fantastic way to do it. And as you become a little more gentle with yourself, then all of a sudden you feel things moving, and all of a sudden you get into more ease, because more ease, I think, is what's, that's really what I'm aiming for and hoping for the rest of us.
Yeah. So break down what EFT is real quick.
So emotional freedom technique, and really all it is, it's the cornerstone of energy psychology. So if you were to look at someone, like if you have any type of healing things that you want to look into, someone like energy, Donna Eden, it's fabulous for energy healing, or her work is about energy psychology. Well, her husband, but she does energy medicine. And so EFT is one of the things that she uses, and it's really powerful. And all it is you're going to be, so if you think of acupuncture, when you go in to put needles in your face and energy moves, so you're essentially doing the same thing, but you're doing it through acupressure. And you're just tapping on the various meridians in the body, and you don't have to tap hard. And all you're doing is unblocking energy from the body. And it allows you to move. Like, I worked with someone yesterday who was really struggling, and she was resisting the techniques that we were doing. And we just did a few rounds of tapping, and then she was fine. And it's just because in that moment we get so focused on where we're at that we don't see straight, right? So there's a difference between foveal vision and peripheral vision. And foveal is like, I'm only going to see what's in front of me and I can't see anything else. In peripheral vision is that you can have expanded awareness. And so when energy is stuck in the body, it just really puts us in foveal. Think about the last time, if anybody had a really bad headache, could you really think about anything else besides a headache? Right? Like whatever you did, the headache was there in your awareness and informing your decisions. And so even just like a look, I'll give it to you just the way that it works. Like you start here, you go here, you go here, you go here, under the eye, under the nose, under the lip, you go to the sore spot. So under the collarbone, next to the sternum, under the arm, do it over and over again. You're going to feel better.
I love it. I love all of that stuff. And we got to do a workshop with maybe including some of those things in there.
Absolutely. Sure.
Figure it out. So this is awesome. So how about like changing now those thoughts? So now we're able to catch those negative thoughts. At what points, because it's repetitive, right? It's something that we have to make it part of our daily life, is to be intentional about those positive thoughts. It's not just when those negative moments come, because they're going to perpetually happen. So what are some ways that you would suggest, okay, when you realize what it is that you want and you create that future, visualize it, write it down, how do you embed it? How do we make it part of us?
So I'll give you the secret that nobody knows, but yes, we all do. And that is, you got to learn to manage your stress. That's the first thing to do. So if you think about stress is going to then activate the sympathetic nervous system. When you activate the sympathetic nervous system, the energy leaves the places where there's healing going on. It stops digesting food, which is why we get stomach aches when we're really upset. And the energy then travels to the limbs. And it's a very old, pretty archaic response. It's basically, how do we fight or flee this thing that's happening in the moment? So when that happens, then you take energy, you take in the brain activity from the frontal lobe, recedes, the energy then travels back to, you're going to go back to like the brain stem, you're going to go back into limbic system. And so therefore, so right here is where you do your thinking, by the way, right? We want the prefrontal cortex to be nice and available. And so when you're in high stress, you're not going to have the resources, the cognitive resources that you would if you were in stasis, if you were feeling balanced. And so managing your stress, for me, for everybody, it's going to be to, if you could find a way, and I know everybody's answer, I'm so busy. I know everybody is. We're all busy, right? We live in a busy world, like we've conditioned it into our nervous system. But if you were to create a morning routine, there's something called future pacing in NLP, which is so powerful. And yes, you can repeat thoughts, and that can be, and repetitive things are good. I mean, to me, it's like the C version of the A version, right? Like that is going to take the longest, the repetition, but it works. But if you could allow yourself to have a morning routine where you learn to prioritize you in your world, and you get up. Listen, I get up early. Like I'm up at 4:30 or 5. You don't have to. You can get up whenever you get up. But for me, it's that self-care routine is the most important thing in my day. And that is for me to drink my coffee in peace, for me to do some reading, for me to meditate. So in order, coffee, meditation, reading, and then future pacing my day. And everything here, when I think of even meditation, is to strengthen that spiritual connection. And because you are that, right? You are spiritually connected. You know, are you aware of that connection or not? That's really usually the question. And I'm not saying any type of ideology, but there's more to you than you. And when you can get that sense inside, then you can begin to cultivate trust. When you begin to cultivate trust, then the positive thoughts and feelings and expectations begin to form naturally. So it isn't even like a thought, like, I want $1 million. Well, good for you. I want you to have maybe 2 or 3. That would be fabulous. But it's really, how do we then set the foundation for you to be able to create the things that you want? Because it's got to start with a foundation, and the foundation in every single instance, everybody that I work with has started with self-care, self-love, self-worth. Self-care leads you to believe in yourself and to know that you're worthy of taking care of yourself. And then that leads to your confidence. And then that leads to like, I can do this. And that leads to you taking action that says that you can do it. And that leads to you having outcomes to prove to you that you could do it. And the entire time is because you got up at 4:30 or 5 and we're reading and we're meditating and we're sipping on your coffee and you were just loving yourself for those few minutes.
Amen. And and that's the most important. I love that so much, right? Because often we are running, to nonstop. I have to get this done, but it is taking that time out to sip your cafecito, take some alone, right? Because I find that to be, I like to be alone. Like that's my favorite time as well. Probably many here is just kind of take that alone time to drink your coffee or tea or mushroom concoction, whatever it is. But that alone time, and never don't underestimate meditating. Like, so many people, and that's another thing that I think I've heard people have struggled with, kind of getting into what is meditation and how do I know I'm meditating, or how do I find that that place. Let's see, I'm up at 4:10 a.m.
Good for
for me
you.
time too. Quiet time is priceless. Yes.
So meditating, by the way, if I may, it's
Yeah.
anything that takes your focus from externally and brings it internally. And it's a practice, just like, well, think of a marathoner. Like I have a friend who ran a marathon without training. Really bad idea. And so just think of a typical marathoner, right? They're not going to just one day, like my friend did, wake up and say, I want to go run a marathon. They didn't do that, right? They had to train. So meditation is going to be something. I have clients who, it only makes sense. They come in, their nervous system is really all over the place. And so they're not feeling calm or centered. Why would anybody go hire a coach if they're like, my life is amazing? Typically they want to achieve some things, but one of the big things is for them to learn to meditate. And sometimes it's going to be just sitting there for 2 minutes and just quiet. And then maybe you take a break and then you do another 2 minutes. And then maybe you take a break and if the thoughts come in, you just kind of let them go away. This is one of the reasons that I love creating hypnosis audios for people. I love creating brain entrainment audios because even in that moment, they'll be able to get, they're designed to help them calm down, but it allows them to just kind of reconnect. And so it's just really sitting quiet as best you can. And then tomorrow you can do a little bit better.
Yeah.
And next day, even a little bit better.
I love that. It's a process. It's a journey. It's not going to be an overnight thing. And same, like when I first sat to meditate, I've just sit there, and it's hard if you're just your mind wanders. But I made it a prayer. I think that's kind of where I was just praying, and then eventually, over time, I was able to sit longer and kind of do some cool stuff out of that. But
for me now, it's just sitting there quiet, and that is probably like the most delicious thing in my day, is just sitting there, just kind of just being it. But it took some time to get there for me. I didn't know what I know now, right? So I learned to do it without knowing what I know. So I know that it's absolutely possible.
Yeah. And so many people are so busy throughout the day that through work, through that hustle and bustle, that it is, but it's hard. It can be hard, but once you get it, right?
Well, and it's a mindset shift, by the way, because I have and I know that, so I'll be quick on this. It's a mindset shift because we think that we're so busy that we don't have time to relax. But in reality, if you learn to have that time for yourself, to prepare for your day. Future pacing is all about seeing the day as you want it to work out. And it just really sends instructions to the unconscious mind. But I tell my clients, do your self-care routine and it'll give you more time. You want more time, do this first. And then you'd be surprised. I had a client who told me that she might be here. She was like, I'm too overwhelmed to release overwhelm, because my clients know how to release their own negative emotion. I said, then you really must stop what you're doing. Go release overwhelm and then get back to me. And you know what happened? She released the emotion and all of a sudden she had like 2 to 3 hours of extra time that she didn't expect in her day. It's because how you perceive it is how you're going to see it in your world. So you change that, then you have more time.
Yeah.
The day.
I love this. We all want more time in our day. So hopefully you guys got some. I know you did. It's not even a hopefully. I know you guys all got some great ideas and tips, and connect with Brenda. How can they connect with you? I know we'll put some stuff on the chat here, but what's your, I know you're launching something next week. So
I'm launching all my stuff next
yeah,
week. So it's
yeah.
brendaterry.co. You can find me there. You can find me here on LinkedIn, and I'm just here. You can message me, like I'm so accessible.
Yes, 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 yes. Yay. Thank you so much, Brenda. Thank you
Thank you.
guys. Hopefully you got some nuggets, some cafecitos, a little break, and hopefully you enjoy the rest of your day
Yes, have a
and
wonderful day.
have an amazing one. Thank you guys and take care.
Thank you.